I've been a financial advisor now for over 20 years. And one of the most rewarding parts of my job is for many of my clients, I've worked with them for a decade, 15 years or 20 years. And as much as I've shared with them and helped guide them into retirement, candidly, I learn as much from my clients as hopefully they learn from me. And today I want to share with you one of the most important lessons that I've learned from watching other people go through their journey, seeing them navigate it successfully, and sometimes, unfortunately, seeing them struggle. So if you're over 40 years old, today I want to talk to you about 6 things that I want you to stop doing as soon as possible. Okay, the first one is I want you to stop worrying. You know, there's a famous quote by Seneca, and Seneca is one of the Stoics. And, you know, I've always been turned off by the word Stoic. You know, it just sounds so formal and so Greek, because it is Greek. But Stoic is just a Greek word for porch. And the reason they're called the Stoics is these were the students that would sit on the porch with the masters and learn from the masters. So sit on the porch with me, and together let's learn. So one of the things Seneca said is, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And I think anxiety, worrying is one of the things that really steals the joy from life. And Seneca's quote, you know, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. You know, there's probably hundreds of things that I've worried about, and maybe 1 or 2 of them ever came to fruition. So as I get older, I've gotten better at saying, you know, I'm connecting the dots and I'm worried about this, but I believe we're going to find a solution to that before we get to that point. So I'm giving myself permission to stop worrying. And I want you to give yourself permission to stop worrying as well. And I also want to share with you the first part of that Seneca quote, because the last part is what I just shared, but the full quote is, there are more things likely to frighten us than to crush us. And then Seneca goes on to say, we suffer more in imagination than reality. So more things that are likely to frighten us than crush us. And, you know, if we allow 99 things to frighten us, for every one thing that potentially might crush us, might be a major setback, it's going to steal a lot of joy. So anxiety and worrying is thinking about the future. And then regret is really thinking about the past. And I want you to give yourself permission to give up both of those. I want you to fully live and be in the moment and get all the joy out of it. Particularly if you're closer to your 40s than your 60s, you have a lot of life left, and you're at the peak of your life. And I want it to feel that way. I know when I was in my 40s, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I wish I hadn't let that happen, because it stole joy from me. So enough said. That's number 1. Number 2, I want you to stop pretending. I want you to be comfortable being who you are. The world needs your authentic self. And particularly in the professional world, we tend to pretend. You know, we pretend that maybe we're somebody that we're not. We act a certain way. We act the way that we think that the world wants us to act, expects us to act. For instance, I'm a retirement advisor. I'm a financial advisor. You know, most of my peers are wearing suits. I'm a YouTube video on something like this, but, you know, that's just not who I am. You know, and I want Azul to be Azul, and I want you to be you. So I want you to really think about being yourself. And you know what? Not everybody likes Azul. Fortunately for me, a lot of people do, but not everybody does. And if I try to please everybody, then I'm not going to be authentic to myself. And I recently heard an interview with the famous actor Jim Carrey. And I guess Jim Carrey in the past has suffered from depression. And it's because the Jim Carrey that you and I knew, you know, from the movie Cable Guy and some of his sillier films, The Mask, you know, that wasn't authentically who Jim Carrey was. And he really suffered from depression until he said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to be who I am. And the people that love me are going to love me, and the people that don't, that's okay too. So we cannot please everybody all the time, and we can't be something that we are not, and still have the energy and still have the skip in our step and the joy in our heart. So I want you to quit pretending to be somebody that you're not. Okay, number 3, kind of related. I want you to quit putting yourself down. You know, none of us are perfect. We've all made mistakes. And I think it's just human nature. I suspect 90% of the people watching this video, myself included, when I was in my 40s, I'd put myself down. You know, I had these big goals that I wanted to achieve. You know, I love life and I love squeezing all the juice out of life. But, you know, sometimes when I wasn't successful at squeezing that juice out of life, then I would get down on myself and say, oh, you didn't accomplish what you had set out to accomplish. But, you know, just the fact that you're brave enough, right? There's the saying with Teddy Roosevelt about the man in the ring, in the arena. And that person has the courage to go in there and get hit in the face and get back up after they fell. So if you're in the arena, you know what? That's 90% of the battle, and you deserve kudos just for having the courage to go in the arena. And we're not always going to leave the arena victorious, but I want you to pat yourself on the back. I want you to feel good about yourself for having the courage to go in the arena, for having the courage to take a hit to the face, and to go after your big, lofty goals, even when you know that there's a decent chance sometimes you're not going to hit all of your goals. But you know what? You learn a lot just by having those goals, just by striving to be the best version of you. So I want you to quit beating yourself up when you don't achieve those goals. I don't want you to put yourself down. And here's the other thing. I don't want you to allow other people in your life that put you down either, that steals joy from your heart. Life is too short. You know, we become the sum total of the 6 people that we hang out with the most often. And I really want you to look at who are those 6 people. You're giving them a lot of power and a lot of control in your life. And I don't want you to put yourself down. And I sure as heck don't want your friends putting you down. Because if your friends are putting you down, if your friends aren't cheering you on, then you know what? Maybe it's time for new friends. Okay, let's move on. Okay, number 4. You know, again, this title is If You're Over 40. And, you know, when you're in your 40s, it still seems, you know, you're not in the youth of your senior years yet. But you know what? You're not a kid anymore either, right? So you're kind of in this in-between zone. But I want you to stop taking your time for granted. Because before you know it, like I'm about to turn 60. Before you know it, you're going to be turning 60. And at 60 years old, you likely are going to have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy, active time remaining. And that's not a lot of time. So right now, you can hear the sound of the clock ticking. And it's a distant sound. It's a whisper. It's a soft sound. But it's still there. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And each of those clicks could be a week of your healthy, active time. And I want you to have a sense of urgency. What are the things that are important to you? What do you want to achieve? And I want you to quit wasting time and think about time as the precious commodity that it is, right? There are always ways to make more money, but none of us can make more time. And I think we'll all enjoy the journey more if we value the preciousness of time. One of the richest guys in the world is an investor by the name of Warren Buffett. And while Warren Buffett is worth like $100 billion, you know, he's also in his 90s. Do you think Warren Buffett would trade his billions of dollars? Do you think he would trade maybe all but $50 million in order to be 20 again? You better believe he would. And would I trade places with Warren Buffett to have his money and be 30 years older and that much closer to the end of my journey on this earth? No way. No way would I do that. So I want you to value the time as the precious resource, the precious vanishing resource, the rare resource that it is. Okay, let's keep going. Number 5, similar to taking your time for granted. if you're in your 40s, and particularly if you're past that, if you're in your 50s and 60s and above, but if you're in your 40s and you're skimping on taking care of yourself, if you're pulling all-nighters, if you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, your body can only take that for so long. And I want you to really think about, this is the vehicle that's going to take you into retirement. This is the vehicle that when you finally reach out and grab that brass ring from all the sacrificing and the hard work and the saving and the investing and the pressure that you put on yourself, and now you're free and you get to do what you want from where you want, with whom you want. You get to work on what you want and how you want to do it. When you have that freedom, for me, this is my vehicle that I get to take that retirement journey on. I get to enjoy that freedom on. But you know what? If this body breaks down, I'm not going to be able to enjoy that journey. So I want you to start taking care of your health. I want you to stop taking your health for granted. I want you to both invest time. I want you to invest effort and mind space, but also money. If you have some health goals and you haven't been able to achieve them, I want you to think about bringing out your wallets. And I'm not a fitness coach. I'm not here to sell you a fitness program. In fact, I'm a consumer of fitness programs. Last year, my goal was to lose 10 pounds. You know what? Azul wasn't able to do that on his own. So guess what? I have a trainer this year, and it's not cheap. But if I can hit my goal and I can be as healthy as I can be, I like to run 2-3 days a week, 5Ks. And unfortunately, instead of losing 10 pounds last year, I gained 10 pounds. And when I'm done running a 5K, my ankles hurt, my knees hurt. That's not a good sign. I want that to go away. I want to be the best version of myself physically that I can be. And I want you to be the best version of yourself physically that you can be as well. Okay, let's keep going. Number 6, and I said that there'd be 6, so stick with me to the end, because at the end I'm going to share a bonus with you that has made a big difference in my life. But number 6 is, I want you to stop resisting change, and I want you to think about, what are the adventures, and what do I mean by resisting change? Maybe that's changing jobs if you feel you're being called to change jobs, or maybe that's changing where you live. I want you to embrace adventures because it keeps us young. Right now, if you have young kids at home, if your kids are in middle school, if your kids are in high school, that's a responsibility that, our kids come first. So you may not be able to, pack up everything and live for a year in Vietnam, or live for a year in South America or in Europe, because your kids might want to finish high school where they started high school. But I do want you to embrace change, and I want you to be thinking about saying yes more often when you're given opportunities like this. A good friend of my wife, her adult son, who's in his early 30s, was given a chance to work from France. And I was so proud of him, because he has 2 young kids that, are probably 8 and 10 years old, somewhere in that range. And it wasn't easy for him to say yes. He could have stayed in the United States, but he said, hell yes, yes. This would be a heck of an opportunity. Yes, I want to do that. And that's my bonus point for you, which is, I want you to be thinking about hell yes or no. And there's a book by Derek Sivers that talks about this. And so the last thing I want you to stop doing is saying yes when you should say no. If your heart's not in it, if you're not super excited about it, I want you to say no. And only if your heart is saying, hell yes, I want to do this. And again, when you have your heart telling you that, I want you to have the courage to say, okay, heart, I hear you. Let's go do that. So those are my top 6 things that I want you to think about stop doing once you hit 40 and you go beyond 40. And if you're 40, you still have some time till you're going to retire. But here I want to make my case for 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. If you think you might want to retire at 50, don't wait till you're 49 to start planning that. Start planning that now when you're 40. So 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.